What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to College Football Talk with Peter Burtonette. This is going to be parts 3 and 4 of my series in the video series of the Road to the College Football Playoff. If you can't tell, a little under the weather. My voice is probably going to be a little bit scratchy in this video, but we're gonna power through it and deliver you guys the Road to the College Football Playoff for Washington in the first video, and then coming out, I think probably the following day, whether I release this on Monday or Tuesday, the next day following that, I'll have the video on Texas Go Live. But if you're going to enjoy this video and are interested to see more like this, please feel free to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those post notifications so you're notified when I post. But without further ado, let's dive into the Washington Huskies Road to the College Football Playoff. So the Washington Huskies, really through their first 3 games, they breezed through opposition, and Michael Penix Jr. emerged very much, if he hadn't already going into the season, as a strong Heisman contender. I would say after these first 3 weeks, dominant wins over Boise State, Tulsa, and Michigan State, where he threw for 1,332 yards and 12 touchdowns in just 3 games and just tore apart those defenses, really kind of put himself into the running of, kind of the top Heisman contender. So then they get a dominant win against Cal. I think the final score is kind of deceptive in that game. They were up 45-12 at the half. Cal got a little bit into that game, kind of made it look like maybe the Washington defense wasn't all that hot, but overall a really good win for the Huskies to get them to 4-0 then. And then they have a close win at Arizona, and this was a theme throughout the year, was close games. But I think at this point in the season, it kind of looked like a big question mark. Why are you playing Arizona, a team that's hasn't won 6 games in a season for 5-6 years or something like that? But really, it proved to be the Wildcats, one of the top, I think probably 3 or 4 teams in the Pac-12. They finished top 15, 9-3, and are going to be playing in a solid bowl game as well. So a big season for Arizona, and I think that was kind of an early sign that they were going to be a team to be reckoned with in the Pac-12. So a really good game by the Wildcats. Sure, there were some things that maybe popped up, some things to address for the Huskies, but overall, not a bad win by any stretch. And so then the big one arrives against Oregon, and I'm sure going into it, there was a little bit of maybe oh, look what happened against lowly Arizona. What's going to happen against Oregon? The game is obviously built up massively. Probably one of the best regular season matchups between Washington and Oregon in a long time. Obviously a bit of a rivalry between 2 close states that are right bordering each other. And I think in this one, Washington benefited massively from the game being in Seattle. I think the home field advantage played a role. And overall, the Huskies in that game, Penix was huge again. The Ducks erased an 11-point deficit in the game, but then Washington kind of went on a championship drive after Oregon had gone ahead, and then an 18-yard touchdown pass to Biletnikoff finalist Rome Odunze from Penix to give the Huskies the lead. And ultimately, Oregon was able to drive down the field, had a chance to tie the game with a field goal, but ultimately it went, I believe, wide left. Either way, it went wide of the goalposts, and it was no good. And so Washington grabbed a big win. And at that point in the season, it was probably second to a win that I'll talk about in the second part of this series on Washington and Texas, was Texas win over Alabama. But second to that was to this point in the season, kind of right around the midway point, was the biggest win really for any team, again, outside of Texas. So a huge win. And then the next week, you put up 36 points. You do a good job against a tough Oregon defense that had looked good, especially against, against a strong, maybe slightly overrated at times, but a very strong Colorado offense. Oregon's defense had looked really good, and the Huskies put up 36. Obviously, their defense gives up 33, high-scoring game. But regardless, the Huskies, had done a good job on offense. They had throughout the whole year, and probably at this point, they were either top or second to Oregon best offense in college football. And then against Arizona State, maybe it was the effect of having played in a game that just took so much emotion to win, or just, maybe Arizona State really game planned well. Regardless, their offense struggled and actually did not score an offensive touchdown. It was a 15-7 win, and the only points were 3 field goals and then a pick six by Michelle Powell, who, had a big play. And again, no offensive touchdowns in that game, so a little bit of maybe some issues. And then they had to battle through really the rest of the way through some tough wins. They go to Stanford, they win 42-33. They go to USC in a game that just lit up the scoreboard. Penix and Caleb Williams from USC, their then reigning Heisman Trophy winner. 35-28 against Utah, did a good job against the Utes defense, a team that had, I think, up to that point held opponents under 21 maybe in all their games leading up to that. And then Oregon State in a game with some driving rain in Corvallis. They go to the ground game, and it's where I think an aspect of the Washington offense that doesn't get as much credit. Kirk Herbstreit, actually, I think, because they were the ones calling the Pac-12 championship. He mentioned it during that the running game of the Huskies is often overlooked. And I think that was certainly the case leading up into this game. I think this is the game that more people saw what Dylan Johnson could do, aside from, the play of Michael Penix and his receivers, Rome Odunze and Jalen McMillan and Jalen Polk and those guys. So getting to get the run game really involved in a day that was hard to throw the ball was big for the Huskies. And then in the Apple Cup, against Washington State, last time they face off as Pac-12 opponents, the Huskies get a very close 24-21 win, I believe on a game-winning field goal in that one. And so then they go into a game that they somehow, and I rightfully predicted going into this game, I thought the Huskies would win. I thought the way that Oregon was favored in this game was over the top. I did not really see. I know they had been probably one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in college football, but I didn't see the Huskies being, it's not like they were missing like a bunch of guys to injuries or something like that. They still had a good defense, not a great defense, but enough to make some plays. And an offense that, they've dealt with some injuries, but I believe going into that game, everybody or almost everybody was healthy. And so the Huskies have a huge game, and in this one, they go up big early, and once again, they allow the Ducks back into it. They had gone up 20-3. The Ducks come back into the game, and they end up taking a lead, and then Washington again kind of has another championship drive that ended in a 2-yard touchdown pass to Quentin Moore. It was only his second reception all season, and it ultimately gave Washington the Pac-12 championship and a spot in the college football playoff. So I think that shows. I mean, there's other guys. I think Jack Westover is another name. I think Josh Cuevas is another name that kind of goes overlooked when you look at like the three-headed monster that they have at receiver. Jeremy Bernard sometimes gets a little overlooked as well. He's a heck of a player in the return game. I think he had a pretty solid return against Oregon. And so that's the Huskies. I think they are an extremely dynamic offense. I'm going to dive more into it. This video and then the ones I made last week on Michigan and Alabama are more of a look at how these teams got here. Kind of the key moments, the key games that got them here. In the coming weeks, and especially probably more so, probably right between Christmas and New Year's, I'll have a video that like previews, matchups in each of these games. It really takes a look at the players that are going to be on the field in these games. So just kind of wanted to preface that. But that's what I think about the Washington Huskies season. It's cool to see them back, first time back in this position since 2016. I've always kind of liked the Pac-12, and I've had a little thing for Washington and Oregon. I would not at all consider myself a fan of either team, but I like to see when they do well, and so it was cool to see both of those teams do well this year. And I guess as somebody who lives in Big Ten country, has grown up in Big Ten country, it'll be really interesting to see them come into the Big Ten next year as Big Ten country. I guess the Midwest will always be considered Big Ten country, but regardless, those are my thoughts on the Washington Huskies. But that's it for this video of College Football Talk. If you've enjoyed, please feel free again to leave a like, consider subscribing to the channel, turn those post notifications so you're always up to date. Thank you so much for watching College Football Talk. I'm your host, Peter Burnett, signing out. Peace.